Greetings hobbyists, this is Arzanzavul, and today we're going to have a look at some of the other awesome functions that Cablerator has, for example being able to draw cables on surfaces, connecting cables together, creating masses of cables at the same time, as well as binding cables together in various different ways. So this video continues on from where we left off, where we drew simple cables and had a look at cables of various different types, including ribbed cables and multi-cables. There is a link in the description if you want to have a look at that video, but we're going to be doing some different things, and the first thing we're going to do is activate Cablerator with Shift Alt and C, and instead of creating a cable, this time we're going to draw a cable. Now this creates this pen icon, and what you can do is essentially draw on any surface, any way that you want, and when you release, it's going to create a cable, and it's going to turn that drawing, which might have had some sort of slightly angular bits, into a smooth curve. And just as before, we can modify this by pressing things like S to make it larger and smaller. We can press C to put caps on it. I'm not going to do that at the moment, and you'll see why in a little bit. And we can modify the twist method and so on. Again, that is all in the previous video. Now, importantly, to confirm this, and it does say this in the box, you need to press Escape to finish. If you don't, if you try clicking, like you can do when you do the create cable, you're going to start drawing another cable, and that's going to create some geometry over here, which when you start doing things like 3D printing is going to be a nightmare. So escape to confirm that, and we've got our cable. Now, in this instance, I want this cable to be connected to this object, which is essentially a panel for lots and lots of cables to go into. And this is one of the first common mistakes, is when drawing a cable, people will try to draw it to the object you're wanting to connect it to, and that's really not what you want to do. Instead, what you're going to do is you're going to select the cable that you've already drawn, you're going to tab into edit mode, and you're going to select the point where you want it to connect to. So we're going to go from this endpoint, so Shift Alt and C, and we're going to create a cable. Now you'll notice that there is something slightly different here, which is point 1 is already set, which is the beginning point. Essentially, by having this point selected, we've already set the beginning point. So now we just want to select where it's going to end. So for example, if I select there, we've got our cable and it's connected to the other one. Now at this point, I don't want to edit this. This is really important. If I do, in fact, I'll do that. If I click S here, you'll notice it just starts affecting the one that we've drawn. I'm going to press Escape to stop that. What I want to do is click out of that. And now this has made this into one cable. And if I press Shift Alt and C again and edit cable, now I can press S and it will edit the whole cable as one thing, and you're not going to have any horrible joins or potential problems there. And you can do all the standard things to edit the cable that we've done previously, like add connectors and so on. So an absolutely amazing function, and just a couple of tricks of making sure that we've got that. And at this point, this is when I would press C to create those fill caps at the end, which is going to make this a manifold object when we convert it to a mesh. Now, just for if anyone didn't watch the last video, okay, if I click off of that to convert to mesh, all I'm going to do is right click on it, convert to, and mesh. And now if I go into edit mode, you can see that we've got our mesh fully created, and we could 3D print this quite comfortably. If I go to 3D print and check all, we do have some non-manifold edges. That's interesting, and I'm going to wonder if they're where they're joined. So let's have a look at that. Non-manifold edges, and let's see where there's those. Oh, actually, they're on the fill caps. That's quite interesting. Okay, really easy to solve if we just press A to select all and M and merge by distance. That should sort that out. Okay, so slight problem with that, but very, very quick fix. So let's get out of that, and we're going to move on to the next bit. Now, before I go any further, I will say this was where I was going to stop this video. It was going to be nice and short, just looking at this function. And then I went on and made sure that my Cablerator was updated and spent some time having a look at the newest version of Cablerator, which is 1.4. It's not actually that new, it's just that I haven't updated my Cablerator in forever, and I just thought with the new version of Blender it's worth doing to make sure that there's no buggy interactions between the two. And I started having a look at the documentation and the new functionality that Cablerator has, and oh my god, has Cablerator got good. I mean, it was good before, this is just absolutely insane. So I would always recommend looking at the documentation. You can generally find that easily online. I've gone to Blender Market where I downloaded it and I've clicked on documentation, and all you need to do is click on the link, and it's got some brief videos on all the different things you can do. So we'll have a look at one of the other functions, and this is really exciting, this one. It's just something that's going to save hours of my time. So I'm going to start by making a new cable. So create cable. I'm just going to select there to there, something like that. I'm going to scale it up a bit. Let's go with this, and I'm going to make it a little bit longer, something like that. So great looking cable, but not exactly realistic. I mean, if this was a particularly heavy duty cable, maybe it'd be this rigid, but realistically it's not going to look like this. And what's fantastic is that now Cablerator has something to mimic that really quickly. Now I've got to confirm this cable, so I'm just going to press C to have fill cap so that I can know that it's going to be easy to make manifold. And then I'm going to click off, and then now with it selected, Shift Alt and C, and I'm going to click Simulate Cable. Now there's a few options here. The first one is expand length, and that will make it be able to droop a little bit more. I generally leave that at 1. And there's this curve point multiplier. Now I'm going to leave that at 1 for now, and I'll explain what that does in a second. But I've generally found these are the best settings. Click OK, and you'll see it's instantly calculated where this cable should essentially sag down. Now I can still edit this. I can still go, well, actually this is going into this geometry. Okay, so I'm going to press G and Y and move that out a little bit. Okay, but I mean, it's absolutely fantastic in terms of what it's made in a second. There's been no fiddling around. It's just done it automatically. I can still Shift Alt and C and go to edit cable, and I can make it thicker or thinner. Okay, I can still, if I'd forgotten to, okay, do something else with it. The one thing I can't do is press D to make it longer, so that's worth noting. And actually I've just noticed that the fill caps aren't on, so maybe that is something that should be noted. I'm going to press C again, okay, to put those fill caps. Maybe that is something that you need to be aware of. As I say, I have only just recently discovered a lot of these, so I haven't fiddled around with them fully. But great little add-on, okay, for something really fast. And they do say in the documentation this is meant as a starting point. Do not expect this to be absolutely perfect. So let's have a look at what this curve point multiplier does. So I'm going to create another cable. Okay, same places. I'm going to press D to make it a bit longer. I'm going to press S to make it a bit wider. And I'm going to click off, select it, Shift Alt C, and I'm going to go to Simulate Cable. Now at this point, I'm going to put the curve point multiplier up. And when I click OK, what you'll notice is, if I go into edit mode, it's made a lot more points for this curve to bend around. And what that means is essentially it droops in a much more extreme way. In this instance, it has intersected with a lot more of the geometry. Now, I can fix that easily. Okay, if I select those and G and Y, I can move those out. Okay, and I can fix these. So for example, if I click those and S, okay, I can move that out as well. So it's something I can fix, and it does give me more ability to move things around and individual points. But in most instances, this probably isn't going to be for me. I don't think it's going to be really necessary for what I use it for when that original look was so good. Right, now if that wasn't good enough, there's more. So let's have a look, and I've got, let's say, some sort of ceiling and maybe a gap in that ceiling and, I don't know, something on a wall that I need some cables going up, some sort of hastily done repair. Now I could quite easily Shift Alt C, create cable, let's do one cable there, okay, and then I'm going to press Q and do it again and again and again. Oops, I forgot to press Q that time. I mean, essentially you can do that and it's perfectly fine. But, and this is amazing, I'm going to select both objects, tab in to face mode, and you can see I've been playing around this already, I'm going to select the two faces I want the cables to go in. Now this is really important that you've tabbed into face mode. If you don't have machine tools, okay, tab and then 3 or the button up there, but those must be selected. So Shift Alt C, I can still create cable, but now create a mass from selected faces is available. And oh my life, this is awesome. How good is that? Okay, it's made a huge bundle of cables going from one face to the other. Now I can still change things about this. You'll notice if I press Z, okay, I can move and reduce. So at the moment that's down to 5, I'm up to 7, okay, whatever you want. Let's go with 6, okay, and click. I can still S to change the size of them, okay, I can press D to change the tension of them, okay, so I could do something like that, okay, and I can press N. This is a really interesting one. N, what that does is that means that it essentially, the tension, what we've done with D, gets randomized more, so there's more variation between the different cables. And again, C, I can still put end caps on. Like everything I can do with this. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that's absolutely amazing. You will notice it does have some issues. For example, you can have things that merge into each other, for example, there. So you can have points that cross over each other. That's fine, okay, just something we need to notice. If you don't like where these are, you can press Q and it's just going to randomize it with exactly the same settings. I mean, I think that looks really good, okay. And sometimes you want these bits interconnecting because it means that they're going to support each other when you're 3D printing them, okay. I'm going to click off and we've got everything there, okay. I mean, it's just so good. And again, Shift Alt C, I can still edit all the cables. For example, and this is a really good one, if I go near a cable and press D, it will move that tip. Go to that one, press D, I can move that one, okay? In fact, if I go back to that one and move it there, it's suddenly not cutting across everything as badly, okay? I can go D to there, so I can do it the same over here as well, D on that one, okay? It just goes to whatever the closest cable is, and I think that's fantastic. So click off. I've got this already made. I've just made a load of cables in no time, and if I really do want to, edit mode, I can start editing these cables. So I could, for example, move that one so it's not cutting across, move that one so it's not cutting across. Okay, all of these are individually editable, okay, so that you can get everything exactly the way that you want it. I mean, that is just godly in terms of saving time. Now this adding a massive cable gets even better. I'm going to just duplicate this, so Shift and D. Let's do that in the X direction and put that there. And we're going to do the same thing again, but get this, okay? I'm going to select both the objects, go into face mode, and this time I'm going to select some specific faces that I want. Now, do note I'm going to do 4 here, and I'm going to do the 4 here that I want. Let's do something like that. Okay, and I've found it's generally best to do the same amount either side. It gives you more control. Shift Alt and C. I'm going to create a mass, and we've got a mess. But you'll notice it's got this random face pointers on. And if I click R, suddenly it literally has one cable going from each of my faces to one of the other faces. Now, I'm pretty sure you need to do this with 2 separate objects, otherwise it's just going to randomize everything totally. So if you want them going across, you want these as 2 separate objects. But again, let's scale it to make it a bit bigger. Okay, each time I click, you notice it is going to randomize again, so I can Q, okay, to randomize which ones they're going from and to, okay, and I can still do all the things like D and the N to change it out where they are. I mean, that's just so cool. Like, what a great add-on where you can do that quickly. Now let's see to fill caps, and just so you know, this is going to get better. Okay, this is not everything here. So let's click off and let's make a connector. So we need a cylinder. Let's get that to being about the right size. So S, something like that. Move that over to the side. Then, just so it's interesting, edge mode, Shift R, done. Shift B, make it a bit bigger there. And then Q, because we've got hard ops. If you don't, you'll have to do this manually. Alt and E a macro, make it a bit smaller so we've got something interesting, and this is only so you can see it more easily. I wouldn't do this if I was just doing this for 3D printing. I'm going to Q and bevel and do that. Okay, so it's a bit easier to see. Let's stick cavity on as well. So select our connector, select our cables, edit mode, select our endpoints, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and the fourth one there, and Shift Alt C, and we are going to add connectors. I'm going to press D to move my connector out a little bit. Now this is something we didn't address. Notice how this now doesn't look as nice. Look, it's way off center, okay, because the cable is where it is. But if I press S, I can actually offset my cables out, okay, so that I can put them in the correct point. So I can get them dead center. I mean, look how fast that is and how awesome that looks. Okay, I can even actually, if I want to, let's press T. Does my connector need to be a little bit smaller? Maybe something like that. Awesome. And just because we can, let's select the cables and we'll simulate those as well, because it will even do that. Now, again, if that's not enough, I'm going to do a little bit more because it's got more to this as an add-on. So select the cables that I'm interested in. We'll start with those. Okay, now this one got me really excited because from a modeling point of view, there's so many options with this. Control Alt and C and insulate. Now, get a load of this. This is so good. I'm going to draw a line there. And I'm going to draw a line there. And it puts on something, I think it's meant to be insulation from the name, but it puts something surrounding those cables, okay, joining them together. Now, in my mind, this is some sort of hastily done repairs that might be there, and we can edit everything with this. For example, I could press S to make it thicker or thinner. I'll probably go with there, okay, and once we've got those settings, I can just press Q and add another one in. Let's do there and there. So again, absolutely fantastic. I mean, how cool is that and how quick? Now, I can't even imagine the length of time this would take me to model this. Now, I want to add a couple of caveats to this. And again, I haven't tested this fully, but I think if I was 3D printing this, I probably would want to scale it in a bit. So there's a little bit of an overlap. Or if I go back, what I'd probably do is convert this to a mesh, isolate it. And what I think I'd need to do really is go to vertex mode, select those vertices. Let's go those vertices and those vertices. Okay, delete those. Okay, do the same on the other end. Delete vertices. Now I've got this bit in the middle that's separated from the bit on the outside. Select the bit in the middle, press L to get all the linked vertices there. Delete those. Okay, select the endpoint, and then I'm going to go face. And I want fill, but I'm going to fill grid, okay? That's generally a little bit more reliable here and it's going to cause me less problems. Let's try that on the other end. So let's select those, face, grid fill. Oh, interestingly, that's had a slight issue there. So this isn't going to be perfect. Let's go face and let's go fill, see what happens. Okay, that probably should be okay. And I'm going to just do my things to make sure that things are likely to work. So I'm going to press A, M, and by distance, no vertices removed. That's probably a good sign for this. Let's tab out of that and let's go to 3D print. Let's check it, see what it looks like. I mean, it's going to print now, okay, and it's going to be quite solid, so it's going to support these cables. So that would be something I'd probably be looking to do, unless this was quite large and could support itself. Now, there is one other thing that's slightly similar to this. I'm sort of running out of space, so I'm going to go up to these cables here, and it is similar to that insulate, except for if we select this, Shift Alt and C, it's instead rope. Now, this does essentially the same thing, except for when it's binding them together, it makes a rope. And again, you can change the offset, okay, and you can change the thickness, so something like that. Okay, let's make that a little bit thinner actually. And again, you can just do that multiple times. So for example, I could just click there and have another one. Let's bind those together there. Okay, and whatever angle you do it at, it does it. That probably looks a bit wide, so that's a bit rubbish. I'll change that one later. Okay, something like there. Okay, or you could do a combination of the two. I mean, there is so many potential options here. Okay, press escape to finish. I mean, the possibilities of this just go on and on. I mean, absolutely fantastic. So hopefully you found that as exciting as I did. I mean, I haven't actually covered everything. There are more things for this as an add-on, but I think that's a really good point to leave this for people to experiment with. So I hope to see some fantastic things being created using Cablerator. As always, if you've enjoyed the video or found it useful, please do click that like button, or if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.